A day after announcing a safe corridor in Gaza and urging civilians to move to the south of the territory, Israel has launched airstrikes in Khan Younis and Rafah in the southern parts of Gaza, claiming over 50 lives. Palestinians in Gaza reported intense bombardments near the southern towns of Khan Younis and Rafah, where Israel ordered civilians to seek refuge. Israeli bombs hit the west and southeast of Khan Younis and west of Rafah, according to reports. Thousands of people trying to escape Gaza are gathered in Rafah, which contains the territory's only border crossing to Egypt, as international mediators press for a deal to allow aid in and refugees with foreign passports out. Speaking of international mediators, the US is seemingly on a mission to strike the right chord, as US President Joe Biden is set to travel to Israel on October 18 to show support for his ally amid concerns that the Israel-Hamas war would become a larger regional conflict. Biden will then go to Jordan to meet with Arab leaders. It was US State Secretary Antony Blinken who announced Biden's plans after hours of talks with Israeli officials, as well as an invitation from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The humanitarian situation in Gaza is growing dire, and Blinken said that the US and Israel had agreed to develop a plan to enable humanitarian aid from donor nations to reach civilians in Gaza. More importantly, Blinken also touched upon the possibility of creating areas to help keep civilians out of harm's way. If this is the case, then the question arises as to why Israel would announce a safe corridor and attack the same area almost immediately. Getting humanitarian aid into Gaza is crucial, as the Palestinian territory is on the verge of collapse. Gaza has run out of water, and people are scrambling for food and medical aid. Hospitals are running out of fuel, and oil tankers bearing United Nations flags have crossed into Egypt from Gaza to pick up fuel supplies. The trucks were led across the Rafah border by a UN escort vehicle as people stood in line in hopes of crossing. Hospitals in Gaza are expected to run out of generator fuel in the next 24 hours, and this endangers thousands of patients. The UN Gaza's sole power plant was shut down for lack of fuel after Israel completely sealed off the 40-kilometer-long territory after Hamas attack. On the question of whether the Israel-Hamas war would become a wider regional conflict, it is important to note what Ahmad Abdul Hadi, the representative of Hamas in Lebanon, said. He insisted the decision to launch the surprise attack in southern Israel was made by Hamas leadership and was not directed by Iran or any other party from the outside. But here comes the catch. He warned that in event of a ground invasion of Gaza, allied groups will intervene. In line with this statement, Iran's foreign minister warned on state TV that Israel's actions in Gaza would face preemptive action from the resistance front. Iran uses the term resistance front to denote regional entities opposing Israel and the United States. As it is, Israel Defense Forces and Hezbollah have been shelling each other, but Hezbollah has maintained that it has not entered the war. According to New York Times, when it comes to Iran, the US has sent back-channel messages to the country through intermediaries in Qatar, Oman and China, warning against escalation. The perception is that if Israel's enemies enter the conflict in support of Hamas, the US would be forced to involve itself in the war directly. So it is important that diplomacy prevails. Subscribe to the Federal's YouTube page for more news and updates.